Hello, West Virginia fans. We're just popping off the other podcast onto this podcast. I was with Joey and the gang. We're talking about West Virginia football, Penn State. But we're going to break down every one of the games. ESPN doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. So, you know what? Please stick around. We're going to have a great show, and I will see you in about a minute. Hey, everybody. We're waiting for the gang to pop over here. I see Kelly's in the house. Guys, I'll tell you what. Let's get a little bit of music going. I'll tell you what, guys. We had a fantastic show. Joey and the gang, Jackson Johnson, Dave, Kenny, we were talking about Penn State, West Virginia. How can you not talk about that? Where will West Virginia jump when they beat Penn State? How far will they jump? I'm saying, West Virginia right now is sitting at 31. I'm saying they're going to jump into the top 20. They're not going to leapfrog Penn State, but I don't have a problem with West Virginia being at that 31 spot. So sorry we're a little bit late. Went a little long. Got really into the season talking about what's going to happen with West Virginia. We're going to get in depth and talk about each team West Virginia plays and what ESPN says about the likelihood of the Mountaineers winning. So I don't know. As a caveat, you know what I would like to see for halftime entertainment? Like at basketball games for the Mountaineers, they bring out like maybe a dog and a frisbee show. Unless you've been living under a rock, you haven't seen that Australian breakdancer. I would love to see that girl, Ray Gun, come and do a halftime show at a Mountaineer basketball game or do something at a football game. She is so bad. It is fantastic. It's like she is like the crappy cereal that Captain Crunch. She's the Captain Crunch of breakdancing. It hurts the roof of your mouth, cuts you all up. You can't figure out why you like it, but you love it. So let's get to the comments here. So Daredevil, hey. Daredevil, what did you think of that? Did you see that Australian breakdancer? And Kelly, did you see that? Because I can't get over it. I can't unsee it. I showed my wife, and you just sit there and you just chuckle. It's just fantastic. I mean, I could do some of those moves, like and puts her head down and leans around. I got it. I love it. So let's get to the brass tacks. Let's get to it. Guys. We're talking about the Mountaineers. We're little more than 2 weeks out. 18 days and a wake up. Got to wake up, make some eggs, hit the road, get ready to tailgate. And hopefully at noon, we're going to see West Virginia fire up a can of whoop ass on Penn State. But let's talk about the other games. All right. How will the West Virginia Mountaineers do in 2024? Everybody has a Magic 8 Ball. Everybody's predicting the wins. But ESPN's Football Power Index matchup indicator shook their Magic 8 Ball. The magic of math and percentages. And they punched in the numbers into their keyboards. And we now have what the odds are, what the percentage of victory is. And we'll go week by week. So the first week we have, and I'm going to share my screen just so you can see it. Ready? Share it. I love the magic of the interwebs. So let's share this. Reset. Present. And right here. So, first game. Let's talk about it. Penn State has a 77% chance of beating West Virginia. Guys, that's not good odds. But I have a feeling about this. And that's not put into the math equation. I just have a good feeling. It's just in the air, an upset. So FPI is thumbing his nose at West Virginia. Now, Albany has like a 4% chance. I really think, like it says here, it's 99% chance. West Virginia has not lost an FCS opponent. They're not Pitt. They're not going to lay an egg. Now, Albany almost won a championship last year. So I think that's why they have 4%. But too many thoroughbreds, too many monsters for Albany, the Danes to match up against. Now, if West Virginia beats Penn State, I give Pitt a 50-50 shot. Guys, could screw up a wet dream. They could mess it right up. West Virginia right now has a 55.8% chance of beating Pitt. I think that's crazy. I think they have a West Virginia's higher chance of winning than that. But I think it's closer to 50-50, like they say, if West Virginia beats Penn State. Just that's the way. That's what hits me in the feels. That's what as a fan, going back to 2007, going back to the 90s, going back, the aughts. It's always a game that West Virginia has to highlight. Can't overlook the Pitt Panthers, no matter how horrible they are. And if you think I'm full of crap, ask a Clemson fan. Clemson has been ranked high, and Pitt has handed them their ass. So don't overlook the Pitt Panthers. So if West Virginia beats the Shitney Lions, then I give Pitt a better chance. If West Virginia loses, they're going to be playing with their ass on fire and pissed off. So here's a game you need to highlight. I'm going to be there with bells on. I have a friend coming in from out of town. We're going to go see the game. They have Kansas. Guys, they have Kansas beating West Virginia in Morgantown. I think it's vice versa. I'd give West Virginia a 53% chance. But the FPI index, once again, has Kansas with a 53.9% chance of winning. I don't know. But this is, I think, as important. This game on the 21st of September is as important as the Penn State game. Now, we've said it on the show before. I've said it on shows before. I'll say it again. I'm going to just keep preaching the gospel. The Big 12. If you're a fan of the Big 12, you have to put on your West Virginia hat. You have to root for the Mountaineers. If you don't like the Mountaineers, do it for the conference. The Penn State game is so important for the future of the Big 12. Back to Kansas. Guys, Kansas beat West Virginia in Morgantown, if I recall correctly, about 18 months ago, or a little over 20 months ago maybe. And that was the pivot. That was the turning point. That's where they kind of changed direction. And that Lance Leipold team start making that climb. The climb that Neil Brown was talking about. Kansas did it. They went from a scheduled Kansas as a homecoming game, year in and year out, you're going to leave happy, to Kansas is in contention for a Big 12 championship. They signed Lance to an extension. We're going to have to deal with his happy ass for another few years. And Kansas is playing ball. And they're putting money into their football program. They're getting a stadium. It's it's going to be a few years before they're going to have a losing season. I'm just saying. So if West Virginia can beat Kansas, this will determine if West Virginia is a contender or a pretender. So, Oklahoma State. Now we're starting to get into the, oh my gosh, West Virginia has a tough road to hoe. Because Oklahoma State is picked 58.9%. So the percentage of them winning multiple games, like 4 out of 5, is really low. That's why Vegas and all the smart people, right? Not the fans that think what they're feeling, but the people that look at the numbers and the stats and know the teams in and out, are picking West Virginia to go, 6.5 wins? But I'm thinking West Virginia, they beat Kansas. This is probably going to be, this might be a loss, guys. Hate to say it, but this might be a loss. Yeah. I really do. I think this is an L. If they can split it between Kansas and Oklahoma State, I'd call that a win. Iowa State, I think West Virginia is going to handle them, have them at home. But don't count your chickens before they hatch, or your Cyclones. But Kansas State, guys. Kansas State comes to Morgantown. I think they're right on the screen. I think they're right. I think you have to give it to the Mountaineers here. I think you flip the percentage. I just do. I just feel that. What happens if West Virginia loses 2 of those 3? They're out of it. Would I take that if they beat Penn State? Yeah, all day and twice on Sunday, because it'll make the conference look good. I know this sounds, you're going to hate me. Makes the conference look good if Penn State, they beat Penn State, beat Pitt, beat their out of conference, and they lose to in conference. It's not the best for the conference if West Virginia doesn't win out. But they could lose 2 games to make the playoffs. We talked about it before, and I strongly feel that they can make it into the playoffs with two losses if they beat Penn State. So let's say they lose to Oklahoma State. They lose to Arizona. But this Kansas State game, I think they're going to win. Arizona, guys. These odds for this Arizona game are very similar to the odds for the Penn State game. Guys, I don't know if Arizona's as good as what people say they are. I'm not buying this. I think West Virginia's going to lose two games. I don't know if it's Arizona, guys. I don't know. So, as this article states, West Virginia will have north of 40% going on its way. Arizona has talent, but they're going to need more of a supporting cast. I agree. I think this is a winnable game. I don't think it's as intimidating as Oklahoma State going there and playing. So last two games, we'll talk about it real quick, and then I'll give you my take on old Dana. Bearcats. Guys, if West Virginia loses this game, it'll be like last year them losing to Houston. I think it would be an outlier. So I strongly feel that West Virginia will hang a W on November 9th. Baylor. The Bears. I think West Virginia, once again, is going to hang a big W on the Baylor Bears. There's not much to say. Baylor's been trashed. They've been terrible. I mean, not even 6-7 years ago, they were top 10 team. Here we go. UCF and the Mountaineers. Once again, West Virginia has a really good chance. Last year, I think it was going to be a 50-50 game, and West Virginia put it to them. I think, yeah, I agree. The darn computers are in love with UCF. West Virginia's going to hang another W in November 23rd. They're going to win this one. Texas Tech. So let's talk about Texas Tech. This is not a layup. FPI has Texas Tech at 60.2%. I don't know. It depends on what team West Virginia has at that point. I mean, if they're winning consistently, Texas Tech has lost a couple games. We just don't know. It's the end of the season. I would throw these percentages out the window, and I would put it more at 50-50. Guys, West Virginia is going to lose 3 games. Don't know what 3 games is going to be, but they're going to go 9-3. That's my prediction. You see what the FPI that ESPN had for the Mountaineers. So, with that, I want to ask you guys, we're going to go to the chat. Hey guys, we'll go to the chat and see what's up. Got Bubba Brewer, Steelers Dynasty Podcast, Joey Foster in the house. Yeah, turn that damn depressing music off. I forgot it was on. It's just kind of like putting me to sleep. Yeah, turn that damn depressing music off. So, Tim Green, well, let's see it here. That's if Arizona ain't no good and Shane's eyes are no good. Yeah, I don't think Arizona's as good as what they're saying. But, Tim, you're thinking that they're going to be 11-1. Mountaineers are going to be 11-1. I think we're going to lose 3 games. 2 games. But, I mean, it's like, what is the grieving process? There's like a negotiation, or I think I'm negotiating so that I can get that win against Penn State. I want it so bad. I'm like, yeah, I'll do two losses. It's just really tough. A really tough schedule to win. To win those, against, you got Iowa State's the only one in that 4-week, 5-week span that I think is just a win. Because you got Kansas. Yeah, I think West Virginia going to win, okay? But Oklahoma State, that's not a layup. Not at all. And then, of course, you got Kansas State. Guys, it's a gauntlet. A gauntlet. And then you have Utah playing St. Mary's School for the girls. I don't know. Hey, in the comment, I want your thoughts. Colin Kaepernick. News today. Colin Kaepernick wants to play flag football in 2028. Would you let him on your team? Would you let him on your flag football team after taking a knee? Don't want to get too political on here, but Kenny, what's your thoughts? "12-0, Kenny. That's what you're saying. Or floor 10. Hey, I love your ceiling, and I love your bottom is 10-2. I love it. I love it. And Joey says, I just want to beat Penn State. Me too, brother. I'll tell you what. I will take 2 losses in conference and beating Penn State gets West Virginia into the playoffs. Might not get them into the conference championship, but I think it gets them into the playoffs. And if it doesn't, it's rigged. Joey, you're killing me, brother. So Bubba's saying, sure, as long as he just plays football and doesn't do politics. Yeah, I would let him in there. As long as he's not taking knees, as long as he does this. Dave Brown, flag football, let him play. Yeah, Dave, yeah. You know, guys, I talked about earlier about the Olympics. I get caught up in Olympic spirit. I like watching it. It's a money grab. It's just a money grab for people that lost their way. Okay. Breakdancing was nonsense. I did like the rock climbing. I thought that was neat. Flag football being in the games in 2020, it's going to be neat. But if you've been under a rock, if you haven't seen Ray Gunn, the Australian breakdancer, and you're missing out. So look that video up. It's funny as heck. So we'll ask the Magic 8 Ball. Curtis, thank Kelly McCourt for this. Magic 8 Ball. I'm going to ask it. I'm not going to pull up the digital one. We're going to do the old school. Okay. Magic 8 Ball. Will West Virginia beat the Penn State Nittany Lions? Let me get my light here. Without a doubt. It says, without a doubt. So, Magic 8 Ball thinks they're going to win. Let's ask the Magic 8 Ball if West Virginia is going to go 12-0 and win the Big 12 championship and get into the college football playoffs. Magic 8 Ball. Will the Mountaineers go 12-0? Win the Big 12 and get in the playoffs? Wait for the bubbles to clear. I shook it too much, guys. I'm going to have to let that settle. Come on, Magic 8 Ball. And what does it say? All signs. Oh, outlook doubtful. So, I don't think. Okay, I'll send the link. Let me send it out, guys. I'm an invite. I'm putting it out here. I want people to join. We're going to shoot the shit. Copy. Paste. Guys, if you want to pop on, let's shoot the shit. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about each game, what you think. Are you buying what ESPN's computers are selling? Because I'm not. Yep. So go ahead and there's Kenny.
Yep. I'm here.
So Kenny, Magic 8 Ball doesn't think that they're going to win the Big 12. It says signs. No. Yeah. Outlook doubtful. Right now. Yeah. ESPN putters for $199 each. Yeah. guys, go ahead and pop in if you want to join. So, the Mountaineers. So first of all, Kenny, what do you think of my Marvel looking caricature of me in a coonskin cap?
Looks good. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like you.
Yeah, it does. That's what the guy at the fair said.
Hell, I had to be, you had to be. Hell, I didn't even know I still had control of your StreamYard.
You do. You're an admin on my account, brother.
I know. I didn't know that. I
You're,
forgot
you're
about
like
that.
you're the Yoda, and I am just learning the ways of the Interforce.
You're trying to learn the Force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you think, Joey, of all of that? I mean, the FPI, the computers at ESPN, basically
I told you, I'm selling ESPN computers right now for $1.99. So,
well, you are the last show you were spot on. West Virginia, I think, is undervalued, but I don't think to the point where they're 6-6. I think they're maybe 9-3.
No, I think they're undervalued. So they got ESPN, or not ESPN, but Vegas has a 6.5 win. I think that's the easiest money you can win this year. I really do. I know it's a tough schedule. I know we got a 5-game stretch there, and then really, if you look at it, 7 out of our first 8 games could literally be losses. I mean, seriously, they could literally be losses.
Yeah.
And here's why. You're starting out with Penn State. That could be a loss, right? Then you play somebody called Albany. So easy. Then we got to play Pitt. Okay, Pitt might be terrible, but it is a rivalry game. West Virginia can lose that game, right? Then you look at the next 5 games of the Big 12, and you're looking at teams like Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. I mean, my gosh, that's a gauntlet in the Big 12. The only thing that would be worse than that, the only thing that could make it worse than that is if they had to play West Virginia, and West Virginia had to play West Virginia, because that would be the 6 most talented teams in the Big 12 outside of Utah, right? Outside of Utah.
Here's where everybody's overlooking everything, Joey. Here's where I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry about that. But here's where everybody is overlooking everything. It's the spread of when they have the bye weeks and when we have to go out on away games and come home. If you look at that, it's spread it out to our favor
nice
this year.
They did a lot better with that. I have to agree. It's not as bad as it could be, but it's like,
I mean, it's like it's still a gauntlet.
It's like giving someone a baseball bat to fight a gorilla. Yeah, we have the baseball bat. You still got to fight the freaking gorilla. You know what I mean? It's like, thanks, but
yeah. So but that gauntlet in the Big 12 for West Virginia is going to be so fierce that if we can get by Penn State, that's why I say it's a big game for the Big 12, because we do have to play all the best teams outside of Utah in the Big 12. We don't play Utah. That's the only good team that's projected to be really, really good in the Big 12, and that we all think is going to be really good in the Big 12. We play them all.
Yeah.
In that little stretch, that 5-game stretch, and 7 out of our first 8 could all be lost. You have to think about that. It's a possibility that 7 out of 8. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what happens if we only win 3 of them? We're 3 and 4.
But the advantage is in our court, though, Joey. If you look at the home schedule, we're away.
Would you take a win over Penn State and Pitt, and let's say Kansas? Would you take a win over Penn State, Pitt, and Kansas to lose the next 4 to Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Arizona? And I mean, that's my question.
I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to tell you why, Joey. And then I'm going to shift gears because I'm just talking myself into it. Because what will happen is West Virginia and the Big 12 will be in the conversation in the media for a few weeks. They'll get their due. Okay, now they'll be dropped like a bag of dog turds in the
Right.
park. Once they lose those, they'll say 2 games in a row, but it'll show that the Big 12, and West Virginia is a program that can be in the top 10. It's been so long since West Virginia's been in that conversation and talked about and had that light on it, that spotlight. I'll take that.
Yeah, because I mean, last time we had a little bit of spotlight on us was 2018, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we had a lot of spotlight on us in 2018, but at the same time, you have to look at what Neil Brown's been dealt. He just didn't have a lot to go on, and guys, I've been saying it for a long time, and nobody seems to understand this, but
Dana
he wasn't
Holgorsen
used to
knows
recruiting
how
Power
to-
Five.
No.
Well, Dana Holgorsen destroyed West Virginia, absolutely destroyed us. I destroyed the culture, destroyed everything about West Virginia. Now Neil Brown's bringing it back. It's taking some time, but he got it back last year, and this year he's got it rolling.
Nah,
I'm telling you, I have said this in the past. Be careful what you think about Neil Brown, because I'm saying right now, if you look back and people will remember this, because I can remember it. Nick Saban wasn't always great.
Mhm.
He had some struggles places, but when he turned it on, man, Nick Saban was amazing, right? He took an Alabama program that was in the dumps
Yeah.
and brought him back. Now, I'm not saying that Neil Brown is Nick Saban, and I'm not saying West Virginia's going to be the next Alabama. What I am saying is, hey, West Virginia is back to competing with those Alabamas and back to competing with them Georgias and them Penn States. The last 3 or 4 years, you guys would have destroyed us. Last year, Penn State did beat us and beat us pretty bad on the scoreboard, but not during the game. You might have beat us on the scoreboard, but it didn't beat us in the game. And so this year, you lost a lot of players. We didn't. We're going to beat Penn State this year. And I'll take that win. Because like you said, if we can beat them and Pitt and then beat Kansas, that's 4 games in a row, and we're 4-0 all of a sudden. We're in the top 25. We're steadily in there. Maybe 14th or 15th. Maybe drop a game. We drop a game. That's okay. Because we won't drop below 18th or 19th.
No.
We can stay in the top 25 all year long, but we've got to beat Penn State.
Absolutely.
Very important.
Okay.
Because if
All
we
right.
lose to Penn State, all of a sudden, where we're 30th right now, we will be 39th, maybe
Yeah.
in the 40s.
And then you got to play catch up, and then you got all those games count. And they're like, well, they didn't win against Penn State. How good are they? Well, what's going to happen is the Big 12 is just going to, the interfighting and there's so much parity. It's going to be,
The worst thing that could happen for the Big 12, is that West Virginia loses to Penn State and then beats everybody else in the Big 12.
yeah.
That
The
would
way
be
I-
horrible.
The way
That
I
would be
look at
horrible.
the way I look at this, guys, we were in a bad spot with Holgorsen. Whenever he left us in a bad situation. I didn't know it was as bad as I thought it was. So I'll be the first to tell you I was hard on Neil Brown. I really was. I was real hard on him. But last year, when I watched this team and watched them go through the adversity that they went through and watched how they come out on the other end smelling great and winning the bowl, that turned my whole mind on Neil Brown from that point on.
So
It's on the climb, and I'm
But
still on the
recruiting.
climb. But we need to get behind these young men and push them because they need that extra confidence that we know that West Virginia fans can give them. That's why they call us the 6th player on the field.
now
You know?
the thing about it is West Virginia. So Neil Brown last year was vacationing, summertime. He's vacationing on the beach, probably sipping his margaritas, whatever he's got, and he gets a phone call. You picked 14th in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And Neil Brown said, I got up, I went and packed my stuff, and I went back home with a determination. That determination was sure everybody, we're not 14th in the Big 12. We are at the top of the Big 12. And we went on to finish 4th in the Big 12. and beat North Carolina in a bowl game. Mind you, a depleted North Carolina team, and I'll be first to say that. But still, yet that was a pretty lopsided game for missing a few players. West Virginia just pretty much handled North Carolina no problem from the opening friggin' play.
They had no business losing to Holgerson's team, though. So
they had no business losing to Holgerson's team.
Yeah.
But that was Dana Holgerson's Super Bowl, guys. That's what you got to realize. That was Dana Holgerson's Super Bowl, and he told all his players, "This is your Super Bowl." That's what he told them because he knew, hey, this is a West Virginia team that's pretty damn good. This is our Super Bowl. And what Dana Holgerson probably meant by that was, this is my Super Bowl, right? I'm sure it's what he meant. But this is my Super Bowl because it was all about him that day. And them players played for him. And they played a good game. Don't get me wrong. Now, West Virginia made a lot of mistakes and did not play West Virginia style football. But Houston played to not lose. How's that? They didn't play to win, but they played to not lose. And they've done it a little bit better than West Virginia.
Everything kind of fell in place for them.
Right.
And it negated what Green did. He did a great job of getting West Virginia in a position to it's just unfortunate. But shout out to Steelers Dynasty Podcast. If you like Steelers football and want to watch Zach Frazier's killing it in the NFL for the Steelers.
Man, I watched a highlight film of him the other day and taking leaving a block up through there. I mean, he just opened up a damn hole.
His
like
run
crazy.
Blocking was phenomenal.
He took out two guys and like a half of another guy. But I mean, I mean, he's tearing it up in the NFL too, and we all knew he would.
Beanie Bishop is going to be starting until Cam Sutton comes back in the eighth game.
Hey, he's starting?
Really? I got a question for you both. Have y'all watched any of the film? Any of the interviews on the young men this year?
Over on Country Roads Trust, that network. I haven't been watching them here lately. And that's I don't know. I mean, because players are going to be players.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't watch it.
I don't get too spun up on that, Kenny. I don't like the whole motivational, win one for the Gipper. I think nowadays it's handled so professionally, like with the preparation through the week, and they monitor their sleep. These kids aren't coming in hungover and grab assing. I mean, they're even in high school, they're going over playbooks
Not this time. Not what I watched. What I watched was men that were focused and hungry for every piece of film they could watch, and they are hungry.
Well,
no, that's what I'm saying.
Let me tell you the biggest thing.
Big 12 conference championship, because all of them said that.
The biggest thing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Kenny. The biggest thing about this West Virginia team, and I'm telling you this because I want you to see if you agree with me. The biggest thing about this West Virginia team, and I noticed it since Neil Brown got there to transition, they are well spoken. They are very well spoken.
Yep.
They are very well educated. They are very smart, and they're very well spoken. And they dress nice. They look sharp, and you don't see this stuff that Dana Holgerson was recruiting. Not mind you, they were good football players, right? But they didn't go out to the children's hospital a lot and just hang out and help them. This team here is well spoken. They care about that children's hospital. They care about WVU. Period. They care about WVU.
I know,
they are real people like
everyone. The point I'm trying to get across to everyone is they ain't the same team that I've seen last year. This is a team that's more focused and more hungry and more wanting to get at it. This ain't the same team that I've been seeing. That's what I'm trying to get across.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking
Kenny,
forward.
I hope you're right. I hope it's for the better, and I hope they have their their highlighters out and they're doing their homework, which I'm sure they are. But the litmus test is going to be there's two major games that I have highlighted. First one's Penn State. Second one's Kansas. I just, Joey, am I off mark there?
No, you're not, because both of them are pivotal. Number one, Penn State is pivotal for the Big 12 and West Virginia. And then that Kansas game is pivotal because 2 years ago, they came into Morgantown, and we were the embarrassment of the country because Kansas beat us. And Kansas had not beaten the Big 12 team in years, and they were just horrible. And we were the victims of their first meeting. We were the victims of that in the Big 12. Now, there's been a lot since, but guess what? The stigma's still there. And it's time to wash that stigma off this year. So, yeah, I think it's the big game.
I don't see it. But this is what I see. I see everyone on the team taking a huge step this year forward, not backwards, forward.
We're talking about the Kansas game. We're talking about how like Kansas changed became a premier program in Morgantown on TV. And we didn't realize what we were watching at that time. It has nothing to do with West Virginia's program or the kids. It's just Kansas is playing ball now, and it's just a fact.
And that stigma is still there from 2 years ago when Kansas beat us.
We're the first team they lost to.
Lance Leipold.
They're the first team they beat.
Yeah, they beat. Yeah, in a while.
It's because of Lance Leipold. I mean, he brought a different culture to him.
So Tim Green said, I think it's going to be very competitive this year, but honestly, we really don't know what's going to happen until we play games. That's so true.
Exactly.
And, we're just out there beating a dead horse on these shows. But
now that's why, so we're starting to get closer to the season, and that's why I titled my show tonight like I did.
Yeah.
Because that's a question now that I'm going to ask again after the Penn State game.
Yep.
Should West Virginia win? Was West Virginia underrated? Was Penn State overhyped? I don't know the answer to it right now. I don't. I think West Virginia is highly underrated. Even if we lose to Penn State, I think we're highly underrated. But if we beat Penn State, is Penn State overhyped? Is West Virginia that far underrated? So that would be my question, right? So are we a top 25 underrated, or are we a top 10 severely underrated team?
And that'll be determined the first game, because I'll tell you what, guys, there's no way West Virginia is not a top 20, even a 15, like Kenny had said. He's had it up as high as 15. If they beat Penn State, all bets are off. It makes the conference. I mean, you're literally talking about the trajectory of the conference, kind of like what happened with West Virginia in 2007. That loss put West Virginia down another path. I know for a fact West Virginia, things would have happened differently if they would have won that game. I mean, we're talking national championship. We're talking being in the conversation a lot earlier with conference realignment 10 years ago. But
I mean,
I got a great idea for a video, and I'm gonna do this over on our channel. I got a great idea for a video. If Retread takes the job at Alabama in 2006, is he the Nick Saban right now, or and that would mean Nick Saban would probably end up at Michigan, at Michigan. So would Michigan be the Alabama today, or would Retread be the Nick Saban today?
I think Michigan would have been the Alabama, because I think he was at the pinnacle. It's like someone in martial arts that's like a grandmaster. Like they're at the pinnacle of not only physical, mental, like everything every coaching power he possessed.
Yeah.
He could put forth. He had the tools mentally. He had the facilities. He had the players. I mean, I think he could have done it at Michigan. Now, that's not true with a lot of guys, because, Michigan is a place where you have to be a certain person to succeed there.
Right.
But,
could Retread have done what Nick Saban did at Alabama?
I think not to that extent. I don't think he could have turned it around that.
But could he have done better than he did at Michigan?
I think so. I think it would have been more
the culture would have fit more.
Yeah,
he was completely out of his culture up in Michigan. Yeah. Listen, Listen, I've got a lot of Michigan friends. We got Michigan guys on our channel, right? Frank Beers from Michigan. It's a different culture up here. It's a different type of person than it is down here in the South. And Rich Rod said, I went to Michigan and the culture wasn't there. I needed to change the culture, and I was in the process of doing that when I got fired. I was in the middle. Now that tells me that okay, Rich Rod was trying to change the culture at Michigan to a West Virginia culture, and that's not ever going to work.
I think more important than that, Joey. Look at he kind of like took a spin on the read option. Okay, that would not have translated as well, and that didn't translate as well in the Big Ten, where into the SEC. I think that he could have been more successful doing what buttered his bread before. You know, right. that would have taken hold. So
yeah, so I think right, I agree with you though. He wouldn't probably been the next Nick Saban. That's for sure. Nick Saban would have done great at Michigan. But I think Rich Rod would have had a lot more success at Alabama than he did at Michigan. I just think he would have had a lot more success. So I think if he was going to leave West Virginia, and he left the next year, right? So he got offered a job at Alabama in 2006. He turned it down, but left in 2007 for Michigan. I think if he had his do-overs, he would have been gone in 2006. You know, I mean, now I'm not. Actually, I think if he had his do-overs, he'd never left. Yeah. But if he had that day and that at the time, he would have chosen Alabama. Right. If he had the magic 8 ball. Right. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna get out of here, Tim. I'm gonna get out of here, Tim.
I'll tell you if that Alabama job comes open again, I'll tell you who the one might step into it, and that's Dabo Swinney.
No. Won't happen. Didn't happen this time, won't happen next time. No. Dabo Swinney is done. Dabo Swinney's washed up. He won't use the transfer portal. You know, he doesn't like it. He hates players that transfer. He tells you this.
Yeah.
You don't want to back in the program. And he's been very, very unfriendly to transfer portal, and he has expressed that. And I don't know anybody that would come out of the transfer portal and play for him that's any good, really, because of the way he's talked about it. They're just a bunch of losers that are washed up, that couldn't play somewhere else. Why the hell do I want him at Clemson? That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, Kenny,
Dabo, he don't embrace NIL. No. He don't believe in it one bit.
No.
Dabo is done.
And Clemson is on a downward trend, guys. It's like Miami and Clemson are like playing on the same script, but flipping the script. Kenny, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, brother. It's been a fun time, and we're gonna try to send you a T-shirt.
Okay, cool.
All right, buddy. Hey, tell you what, Joey, thanks again for coming on. Lots of fun. You know, it's if the numbers, if you torch the numbers long enough, I think they're going to lie to you. So we'll see.
I tell you what, I'm looking forward to this season, and I know that we're going to have a lot of great shows and a lot of stuff to talk about when football season starts up. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to being able to talk about some actual real damn football instead of sitting here talking about what could be, should be, and would be, right? Three things that don't really matter. So,
thanks, Kelly. So for folks that don't know, and you should know because everybody that's on here is a fan of yours, Joey, your trivia show is on Fridays.
Friday nights. Yeah, we do trivia Friday nights, 9:00. We changed it to Friday nights. We were doing it Monday nights. We changed it to Friday nights. Look at here. Now there is the man that'll get this show going. Now we can have some fun. Now wait a minute, because I'm thinking Shane's wanting to get the hell out of here, but he might.
No, I'm good now. I'm good now. I just didn't want to hold you up. I thought you had a pop. I'm I am good. I don't have to be anywhere. I just got to take kid to practice tomorrow, but other than that, I'm good.
Well, TF's done suckered partner in here with him too.
Yeah, I've got a special guest for you here, Shane, that wanted to talk a little bit of West Virginia versus Clemson football. I've got my good buddy Sturge here that's been covering Clemson football in the ACC for over 22 years on the radio, and he just wanted to pop in. He's never been on StreamYard before, so he just wanted to pop in to say, "Hey, Sturge, what's going on, brother?"
Hey guys, how you doing? And I'm still trying to get over an Orange Bowl in which West Virginia returns a fumble for 99 yards. Clemson quits, and I think it ended up being about 70-33, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So you know what? I can remember the ticker. Do you remember the ticker? The ESPN countdown ticker. How many touchdowns can West Virginia score in one game? And it was like, and it went to 10, and you were like, holy shit. It's like,
I made that for a national championship, and but we were just talking about Clemson and Dabo. Kind of seems like Dabo's not taking the red or the blue pill for the NIL or transfers. What are your thoughts with that?
Well, first of all, Clemson's in a little bit of a different position, Shane. When my dad graduated from Clemson in 1957, it was a military school. All right. And then it moves from there to Clemson A&M, which means agriculture and mechanical. So a lot of the old Clemson guard, if you will, they don't have the money to continue giving. They pay IPTAY for their tickets. Here's the thing. I know Dabo pretty well. Clemson offered 8 guys in the transfer portal last year. Everybody's like, oh, he won't do it. However, there are 2 things that he won't do: guarantee a starting job and agree to pay you more than what they already have on staff or already have as players. And, being the small fan base and alumni base that there are, that's kind of how they have to go about their business.
When I travel through the area, when I was at Fort Benning, I'd drive every 3rd week up. My wife was pregnant with our second and teaching school and going to grad school. And I was teaching at Fort Benning, so I'd drive through your neck of the woods, and what a beautiful area. And the vibe is a lot like what Morgantown is. It's about the same size school, sleepy town, nestled into a little. I love it. It's great. So every time I hear that they're going to be jumping ship and going to an SEC or a Big Ten, I kind of cringe, because I don't think they fit there either. Where do you think they fit? I mean, I don't know if you've been asked that question or you're sick of talking about it.
Well, here's the deal. I think, first of all, my dad taught me when I was younger, don't quit a job unless you have another job lined up. All right. So I think that fits for Clemson and Florida State as well. However, I think the ultimate end game for Clemson and Florida State is to get a weighted distribution, because let's be honest, the ACC has something that nobody else has. You look at the Big Ten, they have one private school. It's Northwestern.
Yeah.
Now I think Southern Cal, but let's go back before this. The ACC is always going to be at a disadvantage because Syracuse is a private school. Boston College is a private school. Wake Forest is a private school. Duke is a private school. A lot of people don't realize Miami is a private school.
Absolutely.
And then finally, Georgia Tech, you have to take calculus. So that eliminates, let's be honest, guys, 50% of what you can and cannot recruit. So the ACC is never going to be up there with the Southeastern Conference in football. Big 12, we don't know. I love y'all's coach, Neil Brown. I mean, he did a great job at Troy. He's hanging around up there. But let's be honest, if the ACC is going to survive, they're going to have to give Clemson and Florida State more money than they give Boston College.
Now let me ask you a question.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of talk about the ACC folding up, and I've been saying all along, the ACC would not be in this position right now, in my opinion, if they would have taken West Virginia
I
a few
agree.
years back.
Yes.
It's just simply because of the television
Mhm.
that it would bring to the ACC with West Virginia Pitt, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, North Carolina. I mean, just think of the television that would come in. And so then all of a sudden you could add another $10 million onto everybody's payouts in the ACC.
Well,
So
I think it came back in the day that there was a little bit of, let's say, snottiness from the ACC that they didn't feel like West Virginia matched up academic wise with the Dukes and the North Carolinas. People forget Clemson is now a top 20 public university. I mean, they've really done a lot. But I think when I wanted West Virginia to come in, it was more about the academics. And that was probably 8 years ago. That doesn't matter anymore. That's why everybody thinks Clemson and Florida State may go to the Big Ten. But then again, they've got that whole academic thing going on with their university. So
land grant.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't see Clemson going to the Big 12. I don't see Clemson going to the Big 10. They're not going to go to the SEC because the Southeastern Conference feels like they have the state of South Carolina with the Gamecocks. Florida State's not going to go to the SEC. Why? The Florida Gators pretty much have that thing locked up. This is about television now. If you're going to look at two teams from the ACC going to the SEC, look more like it Virginia and North Carolina.
I agree.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, another team that, everybody talks about, another show that I watched earlier, they were talking about what teams would fit in the Big 12 from the ACC. And they didn't even mention Louisville. Louisville makes some bank. And it's a good program. It's a good fit geographically for West Virginia. But, I don't know if they're going to leave because
how much did Dave Brown pay you to say that?
He did. I'm going back to like the 05, 06 matchups with Louisville and the fact that what they're bringing in as far as revenue for basketball and football over the past 15 years is up there. It's top 30. You
guys have to excuse me for just a minute.
Okay. But no, Louisville is would be a good match. But I think you're right. I think Clemson and Florida State they might have talked and have a landing spot, but I think they realize the grass isn't greener. They're using leverage right now because the way I'm following it is it looks like the judge is nodding and letting things move forward, which gives them leverage in hand so that when they do renegotiate, they have that hand.
Shane, I was up in Charlotte 2 weeks ago for the ACC football kickoff. I've been going 21 years. This past 2 weeks ago was the strangest thing I've ever seen. Number one, Florida State came through as team number one because they had to get back and get to practice because they've got a week 0 game against Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland. And guess what? I'm going to go on the record right now. Georgia Tech's going to beat Florida State in Dublin. Number one, it's not a shot at DJ Uiagalelei, who used to be at Clemson, who I covered. It's the fact that Georgia Tech's got the best quarterback on that field. And Florida State's got a lot of moving parts. They're not going to be the same team on August 24th that they're going to be, say, November 3rd?
Well, how many of it, like half of them are probably still mad about last year, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
so you got that lingering thing in there to
right.
where, they're pouting it out.
You lose confidence in the program. If honestly, like if I'm playing and I give you 110%, I check all the blocks, and then at the end of the season, I don't get to play in a national championship
So, Shane, let me ask you a question. At first, I hated 12-team playoff because we've only seen one competitive matchup in the semifinals over, the last 8 years? However, let's be honest. Clemson and Georgia play in Atlanta the opening weekend. Georgia's going to catch a break. If Clemson lost that game under the old situation, that's probably an elimination game for the Tigers when it comes to a 14 playoff. Now you get to go up there, and I'll say this, you get to take on the monsters of college football the last 4 years. And I might be making a comment about the off the field problems in Athens right now when I come to that. But, the reality is now you get to go up there, you get to take a chance against the biggest team in college football, figure out where you were, and still have a chance to make it forward with the 12-team playoffs. So I have to come back. I hated the thing, but I want to see Clemson and Georgia play. I want to see these big matchups out of conference where they're not going to be penalized for playing those games.
I think it's fantastic for college football. Now, West Virginia's in a similar situation. If they keep the score close against Penn State, it helps them out in getting the playoffs. If Clemson keeps it close against Georgia, and also if you're scheduling some, Southwest Missouri State or some little school, you don't have a real good barometer or temperature of what your team, where your team is.
Right.
That gives you an idea of, hey, my guys can play. I remember coaching 6th grade basketball, and I had all little kids, and they did a draft, and my kid was like the youngest kid, and he's like the shortest kid on the team. They made me use him as my first round pick. So I had little runs. What I did, transition defense. As soon as we get the ball, we're running plays. We blew out everybody by 20 points. They were pissed. Right. But the thing of it is, after that first game, I looked at my other coach, and I'm like, we're going to win a lot of games.
Right.
As soon as like 2 minutes in to this season, Clemson's going to know against Georgia what the season's going to look like from those first couple snaps. That's just my opinion.
I'll give you a little update, if you will, on Clemson. Their defense is going to be one of my favorite Keith Jackson quotes, like trying to climb a cactus tree. The question is at quarterback. Clemson will do something different this year. Phil Maffa, if you know who that is, very physical running back. They're going to try to shorten the game because here's a kid that you don't want to try to tackle in the third and fourth quarter when you're getting done. So I think you're going to see a little bit of difference out of Clemson this year, and shedding the snake skin. It's like what West Virginia's had to do up there over the last couple of years. And Clemson fans will give West Virginia a lot of credit from that Orange Bowl just slaughter, because Dabo Swinney had to make changes there. He did it, and it turned out being a good thing. Now, Shane, my favorite comment is from Major Harris's mom in the Gator Bowl back in the day when Clemson beat the snot out of them. And they go to Major Harris's mom up in the stands. And she goes, he needs to go pro because he's getting killed out there tonight.
That's fantastic. That's great. We have this conversation a couple times a year, and I always say there's like 4 teams if I had like a hall pass for, like I could cheat on the Mountaineers. I would say Clemson's in conversation. Clemson, LSU, there's just a few teams out there that I'm just a fan of watching. And, and then I just have to say, if you were to have to join a conference, and I'm pinning you down, would you pick the Big Ten or the SEC?
I'd pick the SEC because you got to look at the last 8 years. Clemson's like 12-4 against the ACC. They split with Alabama in 4 college football playoffs. They've beaten Ohio State. They've beaten Oklahoma. They've beaten Tennessee. Now, granted, they lost in the Orange Bowl a couple of years ago, but Clemson's an SEC school in the ACC.
Yeah.
even basketball, they made it to the Elite Eight this past year and lost to Alabama, who went on and made their first Final Four. The one cool thing about Clemson is not just about football. They've won 2 out of the last 3 national championships in soccer. So, speaking of a great soccer team from y'all's state, believe it or not, Marshall. So
West Virginia played in that
West Virginia
and lost. I mean, they had I watched that game, and it was just an odd goal, and just you looked at the players, you're like, they're better than what they're playing, and just it's strange. I'll tell you what, there's
now. Do you understand soccer, Shane?
My kid played travel soccer for a while, so I understand a little bit of it, but not.
Okay. See, I always like to hear from these people who like to weigh in on soccer. And
No, I think West Virginia had better forwards and strikers and
okay and headbutted it better. So
they're more of an they just push the ball. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's just you look. And
sorry, soccer player here has always got to throw the monkey wrench in there.
So Shane, I got a question for you.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joey. Go ahead.
I had a question for you, Serge. Just out of curiosity, and y'all might have talked about this while I was gone a while ago. I don't know. So Clemson and Florida State staying in the ACC. Do you think the ACC or Florida or State or Clemson may go after private equity like the Big 12's been looking into? Maybe.
Well, first of all, I think you're going to see some things coming up. Like you're going to see the Big 12 get a sponsor like Dr. Pepper. All right. I think we're going to see that
naming rights.
Naming rights when it comes to a conference. I was telling Shane earlier that first of all, you got to have some place to go. All right. Clemson and Florida State have nowhere to go right now. No matter how much they click their heels, no matter how much they bitch. ACC football kickoff last month was one of the strangest things I've ever seen because nobody really wanted to talk about it. But I think Clemson and Florida State's ultimate end game is to get more money for football than, say, Boston College or Duke or Wake Forest. Because let's be honest, Wake Forest has had a couple of good years, but they're never going to compete for the national championship. So I think Clemson and Florida State are tied at the hip. And how can we get more money out of the conference we're in? Because if you don't have anywhere to go, then it's just all smoke and mirrors.
So I seen a video the other day. I didn't watch the video. I just see the title of it that said something about Clemson and Florida State promised $60 million a year if they joined the Big 12. I have not heard that nowhere else. It was just a video I seen. I don't remember where the hell I seen it at. Anybody else see that video?
We weren't on the dark web, Joe.
Right.
No.
Let me ask you how y'all would feel about that as a West Virginia fan that's been a member of the Big 12 for the better part of a decade.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll tell you how I would feel about it. I would be okay with it, honestly. I would love to have Clemson and Florida State into the Big 12, if nothing else, for a little bit of East Coast time zone.
Right. Yeah, the time zone thing.
So I mean, as far as the money's concerned, that wouldn't bother me as a fan at all. Now, how would West Virginia look at it? I don't know. But you are looking at two pretty storied programs, even though Clemson's not really as storied as Florida State, or Florida State's not as storied as Clemson. However you might want to look at it, right? Clemson here lately.
There are no Miamis. We can all just agree with that.
I'm gonna bust on Mario.
Bottom line, I think Florida State and Clemson would bring a lot of value to the Big 12, and it would create a good competition between West Virginia and Clemson and Florida State. That's always been there, whether we like it or not. I think it has. I think it's been there.
I think if Florida State, first of all, I heard up in Charlotte, don't count Florida State out of the Big Ten. All right. I don't know why, but there was a lot of chatter about that. I think of Clemson and West Virginia when it comes to fans as being very similar. West Virginia, a smaller state that has a lot of love for the Mountaineers. You know, Clemson is a really smaller school. As I mentioned, 1957, when my father graduated, it was military school. Clemson lost the third highest amount of students in World War I as compared to any other school. The only other two were Texas A&M and West Point. Because why? It was a military school, and all of them committed to go fight. So I think there's a lot of pride in West Virginia. I mean, I remember sitting back there listening to Country Roads after y'all smoked them, 70-33 in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of love. Why? Because it's a smaller type community and everything in Clemson. Listen, Clemson's building new stuff on top of new stuff that they built 10 years ago. Why? Because of Dabo Swinney and the football program.
Yeah.
I agree. And you know what? Whether Clemson wants to believe this or likes it or not, that kind of that loss right there lit a fire under your ass to come out and get going, right? I mean, it did. It did.
Well,
and then I think the biggest thing was Dabo Swinney firing Kevin Steele.
Mm-hmm.
And then Miami hiring Kevin Steele, right, TF, because he does such a great job for you guys.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, yeah.
Appreciate that.
but seriously, Kevin Steele was a great defensive line, one of the best ever. But the thing about it was, when it comes to these up-tempo, fast-paced offenses like West Virginia was running, Kevin Steele had no answer for it. None.
Well, it's that and the fact that he didn't fit what into Dabo Swinney was trying to do at that time, and he ultimately knew and went out and got Brent Venables from Oklahoma. That shocked everybody. To me, I was at that game down in Miami, and it was a good first quarter and a half. Clemson's getting ready to score a touchdown. 99-yard fumble return. And let's be honest with you, Clemson quit. Yeah. I mean, West Virginia caused Clemson to quit, and I think that really made Dabo Swinney go look in the mirror and go, this isn't happening again.
I agree, because I'm going to tell you, I think if we had played that game over again today, same players and the same time, that was a back and forth game. Mm-hmm. And it was up until that point. You're exactly right. It was a back and forth game up until that point. Y'all kick a field goal, we kick a field goal. We score a touchdown, y'all score a touchdown. It was just back and forth. But that 99-yard touchdown return for a touchdown, after you guys have done drove, 83 yards or something. I mean, y'all had a big drive going on. And fumbling it on the 1-yard line like that, and it being confirmed. It wasn't just good. It didn't just stand. That was confirmed. Mm-hmm. That was a fumble. That took a lot of drive out of Clemson. It really did. I agree.
Right. One of my other predictions that I was wrong on, Alabama and West Virginia have an upcoming home and home. Am I correct on that, Shane?
Yes.
I thought that Nick Saban's last year would be when they came up to Morgantown. Why? Because his father, grew up in West Virginia. But here we are with this NIL and all this stuff. And guess what? He said, I'm not doing this anymore.
I can talk a little bit on that. So I interviewed Joe Manchin the other day. And, of course, Joe Manchin and Nick Saban are best friends.
Yeah, Joey had Joe Manchin on the other night, which was pretty cool.
And so Joe was saying, Nick is doing great. He needed out of it because of this NIL, because of this transfer portal and all this madness that's going on in college football right now. But I thought about what you were thinking there. I thought about that too, and I thought if NIL and this transfer portal and all this stuff hadn't come along, I agree with you. I think that would have been the time he would have stepped down, was back in Morgantown in his home state.
Well, I think that was the whole reason that home and home were put together. But Shane, let me ask you this. Can West Virginia compete with the Ohio States and the Clemson can't?
No.
Georgia right
No.
now, we're talking about schools with
No.
40 to 50,000 students that have some of the biggest Subway alumni on top of it.
No.
I have never met a crew more than Ohio State that their adults wear jerseys to the game. And here in South, that's for like 12, 13-year-olds. It's not for 50-year-olds. All right.
I agree. Now, I'm going to get heat from West Virginia fans, but I don't wear like jerseys. I feel the same way. But you see guys that have had Noel Devine and Pat White jerseys that are extra larges, and they should be in a 3X, and it looks like a little half shirt.
Well, listen, guys. So, as a Miami fan, I can proudly say that we are the farthest from the tackiest dressing fans in the world. So I'm sorry, all y'all have to put up with that because we don't look tacky at all.
Yeah, I seen you in a Benny Testaverde shirt just the other day. So don't give me.
Well, it was a cutoff right here, and I was wearing those Daisy Dukes. But
all right, so I'm trying to hook up Brennan over here with Dan Radakovich, who's the athletic director at Miami. He was at Clemson forever. And he's a Miami grad, and this is his last job. So I sat there at ACC football kickoff and tried to get Brennan or sit down. Mario Cristobal was sitting down with a friend of mine. That's the weakest talking son of a gun that I've ever seen in my life. I actually sent him the video, and all you can do is hear the question being asked. You can't hear anything from Mario Cristobal.
Oh, wow.
Speak lightly and carry a big stick.
Hey,
So I've had Neil Brown. I've had Neil Brown on the show, and now he's well spoken and stuff. He's really well spoken. You can hear him, but it'd be funny to get Mario Cristobal on and be like, "Well, Joey, I just think."
I swear to God, Cam Ward.
Maybe he told him to take a knee, and they just didn't see. They just didn't hear it. He was like, "Take a knee." Take a knee.
He should have been fired for that. I'm sorry. All right, real quickly, guys. Let me turn things on y'all for a second. Number one, you guys have one of the best rivalries, 90 miles apart. The Pitt and West Virginia. That game should be played every single year. It's the backyard brawl, and I am so glad to see that thing start. Granted, I'm going to be in Europe that opening weekend, but I am so glad to see this regional rivalry thing come back. West Virginia, Pitt, Clemson, Georgia. Those games are things that should be played every single year.
I agree 100%. I love
it. Yeah, they're not far. I live just north of Pittsburgh, and I'm an hour, and it's exactly as a crow flies, like 59 miles to Morgantown from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and another great rivalry too is like the Penn State rivalry coming back. So many years as independents, we were independent. Penn State was independent,
and then there was the Big East, and we all look back at the old Big East, and how much fun was that?
Well, you think about even before the Big East though, with West Virginia and Penn State, they were both independent. They had what was called the Beast of the East back then. And it was almost always between West Virginia, Penn State, or Syracuse. Who was the Beast of the East? That was the three best teams in the East back then. And nobody heard of all these other teams. But then West Virginia joined the Big East. Penn State got denied entry into the Big East. So that's the biggest blunder by the Big East.
Oh, absolutely.
They denied Penn State.
It wasn't about football. It's about basketball in that little arena. But here's the thing. First of all, people ask me all the time. I've known Dabo Swinney since 1992. That's when I was in college at the University of Alabama. Shane and Joey, I'm going to share a little story. The football team always had this band party out near the train tracks, and I mixed the band. They were called the Butchers. Why? Because they butchered everything they played. All right. So I'm sitting there when in year number 2, when Nick Saban and Alabama played Clemson, and they smoked Clemson. But I look in the back of the end zone, and Dabo Swinney's the wide receivers coach, and he looks at me, and he's like, I know who you are. I know who you are. And he couldn't. I'm like, butchers out by the train tracks and football. He's like, I knew who you are. So people ask me all the time, is Dabo Swinney real? No, what you see is what you get, whether you like him or not. Yeah, he's kind of like licorice. You either like him or you hate him. You know what I mean? But Dabo Swinney's one of the most real guys that I've ever met in college football. A lot of people don't like his rants, but quite frankly, when all's said and done, he's going to probably end up right about this NIL and this transfer portal.
You know, that's one thing I have to say. Now, with Dabo, if you see him in a press conference, it's just Dabo, right? Yeah. I have to say it about West Virginia's head coach Neil Brown in a press conference. It's tight-lipped, it's buttoned up. It's you know, it's like gotta say the right things. You know,
who's more genuine, Dabo Swinney or Deion Sanders?
Oh my God!
Because you know what? He's
hey, who's more genuine? Who's more genuine? Never mind. I'm not gonna get into politics on here, but
well,
Dabo
here's the deal. Neil Brown's
like,
a great coach. He did a great job at Troy back in the day. And, you know, there's a lot of good schools and coaches along that Gulf Coast, going back to Billy Napier at Louisiana. Now, I think he's under a lot of pressure this year. But, you know, South Alabama's built a new football stadium. Their big rivals were Troy. So I think West Virginia made a good hire.
Yeah, I agree.
Hugh Freeze coming out of what was it, Liberty, for a little bit. Now he was somewhere before Liberty.
He was at Ole Miss, but let me tell you about. I know very well Liberty's new head coach. He was at Coastal Carolina forever, and I'm telling you right now, this will be his final year at Liberty. He's a fantastic coach, and you look at what they've done the last couple of years, and I can't wait to see what he does moving forward.
You probably ask Shane, he'll remember it. I've been saying Liberty a lot. Liberty will be a really good football team this year. So is App State, for that matter. So Sunbelt Conference is going to be loaded.
So
just like they were last year.
Else that y'all see, I told you my upset in August. I've got Haynes King and Georgia Tech beating Florida State.
That's a hot take. I love it.
It is.
So who do you have playing for the ACC championship?
I've got Clemson and Florida State now.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Well, hold on. Hold on.
Wait a minute. I invited you into my house, and you're going to say those words like that?
First of all, Miami's been shooting for this for like 2 decades, and they're not going to make it now. My sleepers in the ACC, number 1, Brent Pry and Virginia Tech. All right. They got 19 starters returning.
Right.
They caught fire last year, including knocking off a really good Tulane team in the Military Bowl that had 11 wins. All right. My second one, and I hate him. All right. This goes back a long way. I hate Dave Doran at NC State. But the pressure is on Dave Doran at NC State, and I'll tell you why. Their basketball team made the Final Four. Their women's basketball team made the Final Four, and their baseball team made the College World Series. So if he can get 9 wins again this year, I think Dave Doran takes off from NC State for a new job. He's been there.
Well, he's got the defensive coordinator to do it. That's for sure. Tony Gibson.
Yep.
You know.
Outside of that, those are the 2 teams. Like
Miami's taking it all. I mean, let's be realistic, guys.
First
Miami's going over the top. Miami's going at least 365-0 this season.
I like Cam Ward, but here's what you can count: 2 losses for Miami. No home field advantage there in Hard Rock Stadium. Now, Dan Radakovich, I mentioned I'm trying to hook him up with the Miami athletic director. His thing is about building facilities.
Right.
I hear that they have some property at Coral Gables High School. that they're going to build about a 35,000 seat stadium, very much along what Tulane did in New Orleans, 32,000. That's all they need for Wake Forest and some of those games. And then you go play your major games up at Hard Rock Stadium against Florida State, Clemson, Florida, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But you can't be successful, Brennan, when you're asking your students to travel over an hour.
It's not over an hour. It takes about 22 minutes to
bullshit,
get. Oh,
man.
yes, it
Have
does.
you ever been stuck on I-95?
Nobody in Miami uses a blinker. That's your fault.
Good example of that. Okay, and I'm not going it's probably a 45-minute drive for me to go to watch Pitt play, but I'm not going to Acrisure Stadium, which is behind Field, because it's an NFL stadium and it doesn't have that college football feel. I just don't enjoy it.
Look, I am totally on the bandwagon of Miami needs a stadium. Okay. I'm not one of those Miami fans that I miss the Orange Bowl. I remember going to Orange Bowl games as a kid growing up, going to the Orange Bowl, and now all of a sudden you're at Hard Rock. Hard Rock's awesome. It's a cool stadium, but it's not your stadium. Everything is Dolphins. Everything's Dolphins. You're walking out, you're seeing Dolphins.
Dude,
I
Miami
like a college football
was
stadium.
The old Orange Bowl.
Yes,
and it started with Howard Snellenberger in 77, and moved its own way through. But guys, it's that time. I just wrote an article for my website, straightupsports.net. All right. I have straightupsports.com. Can't figure out who I did it with back in the day and how I can get it back, but I do have straightupsports.net. And I've got a couple of retired columnists writing for me. Bob Gillespie does a lot of golf stuff. Willie Smith does a lot of South Carolina stuff. But here's what I put in my article. This is like Christmas. You used to sit there 2 weeks before Christmas and go, man, what could be under that tree? What could be coming up? Right now, everybody's thinking, man, if our quarterback plays well, we can go undefeated. You know what I mean? So there's all these wild things going through our head right now that come 3 weeks, we'll start finding out if this is truth or not. And it's very similar. Did I get my PlayStation when I was a kid? You know what I mean?
Let me tell you.
That's why.
You made a fucking Atari, dude. Goddamn.
Sir, let me
Palm.
Listen to the guy.
Let me tell you why West Virginia.
I got a PlayStation when I was like fucking 20 years old.
So West Virginia is going to be so good because me as a fan, if I'm just looking as a fan view, me as a fan saying, hey, we've got a really, really good quarterback in Garrett Green coming back. Mm-hmm. But if Garrett Green goes down, we got just as much, maybe even more capable quarterback in Nico Marco at backup, who's 4-star out of Arizona, who's got a highlight film that's amazing. And not only that, but he won 2 games for us last year when Garrett Green went down. He won the Pitt game, and then next week he beat TCU. Was it TCU or Texas Tech? But then I look at our running back room and I say, okay, C.J. Donaldson's our starting running back. But what if he goes down? Well, we got Jaheim White, who's a freshman running back of the year last year, who had more yards than any other freshman running back in the country and was amazing. So, and then I look at our wide receivers, same thing. Our offensive line, same thing.
All right. West Virginia.
Around.
Okay.
We're loaded.
West Virginia. It's going. They're going all the way. West Virginia.
Now, wait. Now, hold on, because now Trevin Forbes, I'm gonna make you happy. But if you keep talking, I'm gonna piss you off. But I'm gonna make you happy right now because I'm gonna tell you right now, Sturge. I don't know if you know who he is or not. Slim Shady Canes. Mm-hmm. So Slim Shady Canes, I have been listening to for the past 4 years.
He does some post game shows with me. This guy
talking about how Miami is not back. They're not going to do anything this year. And I see everybody else on these Miami bandwagons for the last several years. And he was always right. Miami wasn't back. This is the first year in 4 or 5 years that he's told me, Joey, Miami's back. Miami's
Well-
going to win the ACC, and I'm agreeing with him. I think Miami.
We're going to win the ACC.
Well, first of all, Cam Ward was named ACC preseason offensive player of the year. I think he was even, it's kind of disrespectful to a lot of players. That here comes this guy from out of conference. Now, Joey, what you were talking about Miami.
Salty
They've
Clemson
got
fan.
one of the best offensive lines coming back that I've seen in a while. They're big, but I look at what Tyler Van Dyke did the past year.
Tyler Van Dyke sucked.
Shush. He transferred out, and he was like, wherever he is, the new coach was like, man, these guys screwed up Tyler Van Dyke. So they had a really good quarterback. Cam Ward comes in. It's not Miami when they were in the Orange Bowl. I'm sorry. They came up to Clemson a couple of years ago and got beat, 59-7?
Last time, look at this. Pigskin Pete just sent me this. Last time we played, so right now we are your daddies. Last time we played, look at this. Pigskin Pete sent me this right here. It says Clemson 20, Miami 28. What matters more than last year? You can live in the past all you want, but we're going for what we're living in right now. So here we go.
There's a lot of truth
we're
to
on
that.
top.
I
We're
can't
on
wait.
top,
I
baby.
can't
You got
wait
the
until
Bills. So
look. I can't wait till West Virginia and Miami play again, or West Virginia and Clemson play again, so I can bet $1 with each one of you guys.
you just want to burn a couch
I
so
I just
goddamn
want
bad.
I just want your autograph.
Listen,
I want your autograph. I want your autographs. All I want here.
Okay.
Just want your.
I only
autograph.
make Sturge. What you got to understand is I only make $1. Look at my ceiling right now.
See,
Look at all these dollar bills. These are all bets.
I
from
just
dollar
want to know
bills.
where the stripper pole is. With
Well,
all this
no, that's the
$1
sad
bills
thing.
on
This is,
the
I'm
seat.
losing. I'm gaining money from
All
like
right, guys. As much as I cover
we gotta go.
Clemson, all right, in the
Right.
ACC, I'm an Alabama grad. Okay, sucks to lose Nick Saban as head coach, but I'm telling you right now, don't turn your back on Alabama this year because there's just simply that much talent in Tuscaloosa. Number two, if you go back and you look at the history of Kalen DeBoer, I think he's 114-12 as a head coach, which includes 3 national championships at either the D2 or D. But if you can get Washington to the finals of the college football playoff, here's the thing. Everybody's crapping on Alabama right now. I'm telling you, with Jalen Milroe, they're going to be a tough team to handle this fall.
Well, so Jalen Milroe is what, the number 1 returning quarterback in the nation in most everybody's right?
Heisman talk.
So yeah, I agree with you because he's not a trash coach. It's not like y'all went and hired, somebody from some division that's never done anything.
Right.
You hired a great coach.
Well,
And
I think that was
year
important.
one. Yeah,
Joey.
I think what everybody's thinking about, and I know what I'm thinking about. The reason I think Alabama may drop 2 or 3 games this year, which is not bad, right? You dropped 2 or 3 games. It's not bad.
I got
But
10.
I still think that's about where I had you 10-2, 9-3 maybe, but 10-2 is where I've got you. The reason I think that is because of the culture change.
Mhm.
It's just going to be a different culture, and I think that the players are going to be just as good as always, but the culture is going to be a little bit different, and I think culture plays a lot into a football game.
if Alabama makes 10-2, they make it to the playoffs.
They will. I'm
100%.
sorry. There's that much
Absolutely.
talent with
Twice
Milroe
on
and
Sunday.
yeah. You just got to look at the players. But guys, I can't tell you, Shane and Joey, I really appreciated this chance to get on with y'all. I hope I get the chance during football season
Absolutely.
because the other thing I'm going to tell you guys, all right, I've covered Clemson for 12 years, but last year I covered a school from Greenville, South Carolina called Furman University. Do y'all know who Furman is?
I've heard of it.
I
yes.
do.
All right.
We played Furman one. I think we played Furman one year.
Well, last year we ended up in the quarterfinals out at the University of Montana in Missoula, Montana. And if you're a football fan, I challenge all of y'all That's one of the coolest atmospheres I've ever been in.
Really?
It's like a 27,000 seat stadium for FCS football. And I promise you, it's louder than Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill. It's louder than Duke. It's louder than Wake Forest. And, every once in a while, Shane, you just got to give a compliment where compliments are due.
Right. No, I tell you what, I tell Joey, I travel out to Oregon for work about every 3 months, and I stay in Corvallis, but I fly into Eugene. So it reminds me of kind of like Pitt, West Virginia, like they're so close, and it just in distance, but you go to these places, it's palpable. You can kind of like, college football's in the air, and it's a great thing. It's just, no matter where you are, you can smell it and feel it,
So, Serge, I'm looking forward to one day playing Clemson again in another bowl game. I think, because you guys are going to want your revenge. So I don't look forward to that. But
don't
Serge,
mind me real quick plugging something. Every Friday night during Clemson football season, I do a live online TV show from Clemson. Last 4 years, I've had Joe and Jeff Bostic as my co-host. Now, you might remember Jeff Bostic is the center for the Washington Redskins. Hogs.
I remember Joe Bostic.
Yeah, Joe played all 13 years with the Cardinals, 11 in St. Louis and 2 in. So if anybody wants to find out a little bit about what's going on with the Clemson game the next day, not only that, ACC, if you will, and I hope West Virginia ends up in the ACC at some point. That would make a lot of sense. But check us out. And again, I hope that I can join y'all and we can talk about this college football thing again.
Hey, Sturge, I'd love to have you over on the Voice of College Football.
There we go. All right. Sturge and I are working on a cool show, Joey, that we're probably gonna like incorporate into the Voice of College Football over there as well, and that'll probably be pretty fun. Thanks so much for having us on, Shane. And
hey guys, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been great talking to you both. And hey, Traveling Fools, it's good to talk to you when there's no shooting, right?
Hey, exactly, man. Hey, better to see you, on a night when somebody didn't get their ear blown off. But
yeah.
Shane, you're awesome, brother. Thanks for having us on, Joey. Love you. You know that.
Hey, pray for me. I'm going over to Europe here for the next 2 weeks, and God knows what we're going to face over there.
Well, you better make sure you check out your Facebook posts before you go.
Right?
We're going to Italy, and then we're doing a cruise back to Barcelona. It's my wife's 60th birthday, and I just want her to have a great birthday. And thank you guys. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Hey, later on, guys. See y'all later.
Bye-bye.
See you later, guys.
See y'all.
Well, that was amazing. It was amazing, wasn't it? That's a good guy.
Wow. We're getting ready to wrap up the show, and then they pop on, and what a wealth of he's just an encyclopedia of Clemson knowledge, and we get like the pulse of where their headspace is.
Yeah, that is amazing. That's cool, man.
Well, we're gonna have
Shane, thank you so much.
Thanks,
you so
Joey.
much for letting me come on tonight, and I'm gonna get out of here too, and you can wrap.
I'm gonna wrap it up, and thanks again, Joey.
Thank you, everybody, for being here in the chat. Be sure and hit that thumbs up button now if you haven't done that yet. And even if you're watching this show later, be sure and hit that thumbs up button. All right, Shane, we'll see you later, man.
Yep, I'm going to take us home. And guys, thanks again for watching. Guys, every Tuesday, Voice of College Football, and then followed up by this show. We're going to do some shows after the football games in the evening. And it's just going to be a good time. So I want to thank you all for tuning in, and let's go, Miles.